The front door didn't squeak. I knew that because I'd oiled the hinges myself 2 weeks ago, as part of my desperate attempt to be useful while my life felt like it was dissolving into gray static. That silence was the only reason I heard her voice before she heard my footsteps. I stood in the foyer of my childhood home, my car keys digging into my palm, breath held in my chest. It was 2:15 p.m. on a Tuesday. The house should have been empty. Mom had told me specifically, 3 times actually, that she was going to her bridge club at the rec center and wouldn't be back until 5. But she wasn't at bridge club. She was in the study. The door cracked open just enough to let a slice of dust-mote-filled sunlight hit the hallway floor. And she was talking on the phone. "No, Dr. Evans, I understand the criteria," she said. Her voice was low, clipped, efficient. It's not the warm, slightly fluttering tone she used when she asked me if I'd eaten enough lunch anymore. This was her business voice. "We have the incidents documented. The gas stove left on. The confusion with the bank transfers." "Yes." Tyler agrees. "We think an emergency competency hearing is the only way to protect him from himself." My stomach dropped so hard I felt nauseous. The air in the hallway suddenly felt thick, like I was breathing underwater. Protect him from himself. She was talking about me. I took a step back, intending to leave, to run, to pretend I'd never heard this. But then she said the next part, and my feet welded themselves to the hardwood. "The lawyer says if we file by Friday, we can get the temporary conservatorship granted ex parte, before he has access to the liquid funds from the sale. We can't let him burn through that 3.8 million, doctor. He's not well." 3.8 million. The exact post-tax amount sitting in my high-yield savings account since I sold my software logistics company, VectorFlow, 4 months ago. I stood there, paralyzed, listening to my own mother plot to steal my life. To understand why I was standing in a dark hallway listening to my mother diagnose me with insanity, you have to understand the last 4 months. I'm Mason. I'm 32. And until recently, I was the CEO of a company I built from a laptop in a garage into a logistics giant. For 7 years, I slept 4 hours a night, drank coffee like water, and ignored every warning sign my body gave me. When the acquisition offer came through, $5.2 million gross, roughly $3.8 million after Uncle Sam took his cut, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt hollow. Total burnout. The kind where you stare at a spreadsheet for an hour and realize you can't read the numbers anymore. I sold, cashed out, and then I crashed. I didn't know what to do with myself. No job, no schedule, just a bank account with too many zeros and a brain that wouldn't shut off. That's when Mom stepped in. "Come home for a bit, Mason," she'd said, touching my arm with that gentle, concerned look. "Just for a few weeks. Let us take care of you. You look like a ghost." It sounded perfect. My apartment in the city felt like a cage. I wanted home-cooked meals, the quiet of the suburbs to feel like a son again, not a CEO. So I moved into the guest room. And that's when the incidents started. First, it was the keys. I've never lost a set of keys in my life. I run logistics. Tracking things is literally my profession. But 3 days in, my car keys vanished. We found them 2 days later in the freezer. "Oh, honey," Mom had said, laughing nervously. "You must be so exhausted. It happens." Then it was the stove. I woke up to the smell of gas. The burner was on, unlit. I hadn't cooked anything, but Tyler, my older brother, who temporarily lived in the basement while he figured things out, swore he saw me making tea at 2 a.m. I didn't make tea, I'd argued. "Mason, I saw you," Tyler said, looking at me with pity. "You were staring at the wall, mumbling about code. I turned the gas off for you. You're scaring us, man." I started to believe them. That was the terrifying part. I was exhausted. Maybe the burnout had broken something in my brain. Maybe I was losing time. I started seeing a therapist Mom recommended, Dr. Evans. He didn't ask much about my work. He asked a lot about my stress levels, my sleep, my assets. "Paranoia is a common symptom of extreme burnout," he'd told me last week, scribbling in his notepad. "Thinking people are moving your things. That's a red flag, Mason." I believed all of them. Until now. Standing in that hallway, the pieces slammed together in my mind like a car crash. The keys in the freezer, the gas stove, the missing cash from Mom's wallet that they found in my jacket pocket last Sunday. It wasn't burnout. It was theater. I crept forward. One step, two. The floorboards held their silence. Mom was still talking. Yes, Tyler is ready to testify to the aggression. We have the date listed? Next Tuesday? Okay, I'll draft the email to the attorney now with the final timeline. She hung up. I heard the click of her phone hitting the desk, then the sound of a chair scraping back. I need more coffee, she muttered to herself. I heard her footsteps heading toward the kitchen, away from the study but also away from the front door where I was standing. Panic surged. If she came into the hallway, she'd see me. I ducked into the coat closet to my left, pulling the door almost shut, leaving a crack the width of a pencil. I held my breath until my lungs burned. She walked past. I saw the slice of her cardigan through the crack. She was humming. Humming. Like she hadn't just arranged to have her son declared incompetent so she could control his bank account. She went into the kitchen. I heard the faucet run. This was my chance. I should have run. I should have bolted out the front door and never looked back. But I needed to know. I needed proof. If I ran now, it was my word against theirs. And they had Dr. Evans and a list of incidents. I had nothing but a history of recent burnout. I slipped out of the closet and moved toward the study. My heart was hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. My hands were shaking so bad I had to clench them into fists. I slipped inside the room. Her laptop was open on the mahogany desk. It wasn't mine. I'd come back because I thought I'd left my laptop here yesterday when I went into the city for a haircut. Turns out that was probably a lie too. I probably hadn't left it. They probably hid it. But her screen was active. I moved around the desk. My eyes scanned the document open in her email client. It was a draft. Addressed to J. Sterling Eskersers. Subject. Re. Mason Miller. Asset control and medical power of attorney. I leaned in, reading the text, bile rising in my throat. Mr. Sterling, attached is the log of Mason's recent psychotic episodes, as requested. Tyler and I have documented dates and times. Dr. Evans agrees that immediate intervention is necessary. We are prepared to move forward with the ex parte motion on Tuesday. Regarding the accounts. Once the temporary order is granted, how quickly can we freeze the main savings account at Chase? We are concerned he might try to move funds if he gets suspicious. Also attached is the signed affidavit from Tyler regarding the physical threat Mason posed last Sunday. Physical threat? I hadn't touched anyone. I'd spent Sunday sleeping. I reached into my pocket for my phone. My fingers felt numb, like they didn't belong to me. I fumbled, almost dropping it. Snap. I took a photo of the email draft. Snap. I took a photo of the attached document list. File names like Mason Aggression Log.docs and Financial Instability Report PDF. I wanted to forward the emails to myself and download the files. But from the kitchen, I heard the kettle whistle. She was coming back. I checked the timestamps. She'd been writing this for 20 minutes. If I sent it, the sent folder would update. She'd see it. I couldn't touch anything. I backed away from the desk, my mind racing. I had photos. Blurry, frantic photos, but I needed to get out. I moved to the hallway. The kitchen footsteps stopped. Tyler? Mom called out. Did you come in? She'd heard the floorboard I missed. I froze. I was 10 feet from the front door, 20 feet from the kitchen. Hello? Her voice was closer now. Suspicious. I couldn't go out the front. The latch clicked loudly. She'd hear it. I scanned the room. The study had a window facing the side yard, obscured by a large rhododendron bush. I darted back into the study, silently sliding the window sash up. Thank God for old houses with counterweights. It moved smoothly. Tyler? She was in the hallway now. I scrambled over the sill, dropping into the mulch outside just as the study door handle turned. I ducked beneath the window line, pressing my back against the brick siding. That's odd, I heard her say from inside the room. I could have sworn. I heard the window sash slide down and lock. She must have seen it was unlocked and assumed she'd forgotten to close it. I crawled through the bushes, dirt staining the knees of my jeans that cost $200 but felt like prison garb now. I made it to the side of the garage, stood up, and sprinted to my car parked down the street. I didn't start the engine until I was 2 blocks away. When I finally did, my hands were shaking so hard I couldn't get the key in the ignition on the first try. I drove. I didn't know where. Just away. I pulled into a gas station parking lot 5 miles out of town and just screamed. A raw, guttural sound that tore at my throat. My mother. My own mother. I looked at the evidence photos on my phone. Competency hearing. Tuesday. Today was Tuesday. That meant I had exactly 1 week before they walked into a courtroom and took my life away. My phone buzzed in my hand. Mom, incoming call. I stared at the screen. The picture was of us from my graduation, both of us smiling. I let it go to voicemail. It buzzed again immediately. A text. Mom. Honey, where are you? Tyler said he thought he saw your car nearby. Dinner is at 6. I'm making lasagna. Your favorite. Love you. Lasagna. The last time she made lasagna was the night she asked for a $20,000 loan to help Tyler with a misunderstanding involving a sports car. I typed back, my thumbs heavy. I had to play the game. If they knew I knew, they'd accelerate the filing. They'd file tomorrow. Me. Hey, Mom. Sorry, went for a long drive to clear my head. Feeling a bit foggy today? I'll be there by 6. Mom. Okay, sweetie, drive safe. Don't worry about anything. We're here for you. I threw the phone onto the passenger seat. We're here for you. Yeah. They were waiting for me. Like spiders in a web. I looked at the digital clock on the dashboard. 3:45 p.m. I had 2 hours before I had to walk back into that house and pretend I wasn't looking at my executioners. But first, I needed real help. Not Dr. Evans. I picked up my phone again and dialed a number I hadn't called in 6 months. Mason. The voice on the other end was sharp, surprised. I thought you retired to the burbs to bake cookies. Sarah, I said, and I heard my own voice crack. I need a lawyer, not a corporate one, a shark, and I need to know if you still have that contact in forensic accounting. Mason, what's going on? You sound like you're having a heart attack. I'm not, I said, watching a man pump gas into a minivan, realizing how fragile normal life actually was. But I'm about to be erased. Can you meet me? 40 minutes. Leco show, the back booth. Mason, are you safe? No, I said. I don't think I am. I put the car in gear. The burnout was gone, replaced by something much colder. They wanted a competency hearing? They wanted to prove I was unstable? I looked at my eyes in the rearview mirror. They didn't look crazy. They looked focused. If they wanted a fight, I'd give them one. But I wasn't going to use my fists. I was going to use the one thing they wanted most. My money. And I was going to use it to bury them. Lekosho was loud, the clatter of silverware and low hum of happy hour conversations providing the only cover I had left. I sat in the back booth, my back to the wall, watching the door. When Sarah walked in, she didn't look like the college friend I used to share cheap pizza with. She looked like corporate warfare in a tailored blazer. Behind her trailed a man who looked like he chewed glass for breakfast. Mason, Sarah said, sliding into the booth. She didn't hug me. She scanned my face, her eyes dropping to my shaking hands, then to the phone I was clutching. You look like hell. I feel like a target, I said. Who's this? This is Elias Thorne, she said. He's not corporate. He's criminal defense and family litigation. I told him the basics. Show him the photos. I slid my phone across the table. Thorne didn't say a word. He put on a pair of reading glasses and zoomed in on the blurry image of my mother's email draft. He studied it for a full minute, his expression unreadable. Then he looked at the second photo, the file list. Aggression log.docs, Thorne read aloud, his voice gravelly. Standard playbook. They build a narrative of instability. Then they file ex parte, meaning without you present, claiming immediate danger. Judge freezes your assets, grants temporary conservatorship to the next of kin. Once they have control, they pay themselves management fees and drain the accounts before you can even get a hearing to prove you're sane. But I am sane, I insisted, though the tremor in my voice made me sound otherwise. Dr. Evans, he's been telling me I'm paranoid. Dr. Evans is on the payroll, Thorne said flatly. Look at the email recipient. J. Sterling. That's Julian Sterling. He's a specialist in elder law and asset protection. He doesn't handle competency cases unless there's significant money involved. He's expensive. Who's paying him? My mother doesn't have that kind of money, I said. She lives on a pension and my dad's life insurance. It's comfortable, but not $500 an hour lawyer comfortable. Sarah pulled a folder from her bag. That's what I was looking into while I drove here. Mason, you know I have access to credit checks because of my work at the bank. I ran a soft pull on your brother. Tyler? I frowned. Tyler's broke. That's why he lives in the basement. Tyler isn't just broke, Sarah said, sliding a sheet of paper toward me. He's drowning. I looked at the numbers. Outstanding debt, $487,500. Creditor, Onyx Capital Services, Collection Agency. Secondary liens. 2. Onyx Capital is a shell for offshore sports betting debt, Sarah said quietly. Tyler didn't just lose money. He leveraged himself to the hilt on crypto futures and offshore parlays. He's been dodging collections for 6 months. But look at the date on the last inquiry. I looked. Yesterday. They're squeezing him, Sarah said. If he doesn't pay, they aren't going to send a letter. They're going to break his legs. Or worse. It clicked. The desperation, the timing, the keys in the freezer. They need my $3.8 million, I whispered, to pay off his bookies. They need control of it, Thorne corrected. If you give it to them willingly, the IRS asks questions. If they take it as your legal guardians to manage your estate, they can siphon off funds for expenses and hide the payoffs. He leaned in, his eyes locking onto mine. Here is the reality, Mason. You have photos of a screen. In court, they will claim you faked them, or that you misunderstood a draft regarding their estate planning. It's not enough to stop the filing on Tuesday. We need them to admit the conspiracy. We need them to say, out loud, that the medical necessity is a lie. How? I asked. You have to go back, Thorne said. My chest tightened. I can't. They'll know. You have to go back, he repeated. And you have to give the performance of your life. They need you unstable. So, be unstable. Be confused. Let them think the gaslighting is working. But you need to record it. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a simple black ballpoint pen. He clicked the top. A tiny blue light flashed once, then vanished. Audio recorder, he said. High fidelity. Battery lasts 12 hours. Put it in your shirt pocket. Go to dinner. Eat the lasagna. And wait for them to push you. Because they will push you. They need one final incident to justify the filing on Tuesday. Give it to them. I drove back to the suburbs in a daze. The sun was setting, casting long, bloody shadows across the manicured lawns of my childhood neighborhood. I parked in the driveway. My hands were sweating so much I had to wipe them on my jeans before I could grab the pen. I clipped it into the breast pocket of my flannel shirt. It looked completely innocent. I took a deep breath, trying to channel the foggy feeling I'd had for weeks. Slumped shoulders. Unfocused eyes. I opened the front door. The smell of garlic and tomato sauce hit me instantly. It smelled like safety. It smelled like lies. Mason, Mom's voice called from the kitchen. Is that you? Yeah, I called back, letting my voice drag. I'm here. I walked into the kitchen. Mom was at the stove, pulling a bubbling lasagna from the oven. Tyler was leaning against the counter, scrolling on his phone. He looked up, and for the first time I saw the terror behind his eyes. He wasn't just a jerk. He was a terrified man with a debt clock ticking over his head. Hey, buddy, Tyler said, forcing a smile. You look wrecked. I couldn't find the highway for a while, I lied, rubbing my temples. I just drove in circles. Mom exchanged a quick glance with Tyler, a glance of triumph. It's working. Oh, honey, she cooed, setting the dish down. Sit. You need food. Your blood sugar is probably low. We sat at the round oak table where I'd eaten thousands of meals. The lasagna was plated, heavy, cheesy, steaming. I took a bite. It tasted like ash, but I swallowed. So, Tyler said, cutting into his portion aggressively. Dr. Evans called today. He asked if you've been taking the supplements he gave you. I think so, I mumbled. I don't remember. You don't remember? Tyler scoffed. Mason, it's a pill. How do you run a company if you can't remember a pill? I sold the company, Tyler, I said softly. Yeah, and now you're just floating, he said. Floating and forgetting, like the stove. Here it was, the push. I didn't leave the stove on, I said, injecting a hint of defensive agitation into my voice. You did. Tyler slammed his fork down. Last night, I came down at 3 a.m. and the house smelled like gas. If I hadn't been awake, Mom would be gone. Do you understand that? You almost injured Mom. I looked at Mom. She had her hand over her mouth, eyes wide, performing the role of the terrified victim perfectly. I didn't mean to, I stammered. I don't remember coming downstairs. That's the problem, Mom cried out. You don't remember. Mason, we can't live like this. I'm scared. I'm scared for you. I reached for my water glass, letting my hand tremble violently enough that water sloshed onto the tablecloth. I'm sorry, I whispered. I don't know what's happening to me. We do, Mom said, reaching across the table to take my wet hand. Her grip was firm, predatory. Dr. Evans says you're having a breakdown, a severe one. He thinks you need rest, real rest, in a facility. My head snapped up. A facility? You mean a hospital? A retreat, she corrected quickly. A place where they manage your medications, where you're safe. But my money, I said, widening my eyes. My accounts. Who pays my bills? Tyler leaned forward. The hunger in his face was naked now. That's the thing, Mace. We can handle that. Mom and I, we talked to a lawyer, just to ask, you know. He said we can set up a management agreement. Just temporary. A power of attorney, Mom added softly. Just so we can pay your rent and keep your investments safe while you get better. We have the papers here, actually. We thought, maybe we could just sign them tonight. Save us all the worry. I felt the pen against my chest. Record it. Get them to admit the alternative. I don't know, I said, pulling my hand away. I think I should talk to my own lawyer first. The temperature in the room dropped 20 degrees. Your lawyer? Tyler laughed, a harsh barking sound. You can't even find your car keys, Mason. You're going to hire a lawyer? To do what? Prove you're incompetent? Tyler, stop, Mom warned him, then turned her gaze on me. It wasn't soft anymore. Mason, listen to me. If we don't do this, if you don't sign these papers tonight, Dr. Evans is obligated to report your behavior to the state. There will be a hearing, a judge. It will be public. Everyone will know you lost your mind. She's right, Tyler said. The hearing is already listed for Tuesday, Mason. We were trying to save you the embarrassment. But if you force us, you already listed it? I asked, keeping my voice trembling. You planned this? We're protecting you, Tyler shouted. You're unstable. You're a danger to yourself. You have $3 million sitting there and you can't even wipe your own ass without forgetting how. We need that money. We need to protect that money before you burn it. He slipped. He almost said it. You need the money, I asked quietly. We need to secure it, Mom interjected loudly. Mason, stop this. Sign the papers. It gives me control over the account so I can pay your bills. That's it. Otherwise, the court takes it all on Tuesday and locks you away for evaluation. Is that what you want? To be locked up? She stood up, walked to the sideboard, and picked up a blue folder. She slammed it on the table in front of me. Sign it, she commanded. Dr. Evans is coming over at 7:30 to witness it. If it's not signed by the time he gets here, he's filing the emergency affidavit. I looked at the clock. 7:15 p.m. Dr. Evans was coming here. The corrupt doctor. If I signed, they drained my accounts tonight. If I didn't sign, they filed the court order tomorrow. But I had it. I had the threat. I had the ultimatum. I had Tyler admitting they listed the hearing to Save me embarrassment while demanding control. I looked at the pen, then at the papers. I, I started, then let my head drop into my hands. I think I'm going to be sick. Go to the bathroom, Mom said, disgusted. Wash your face, then come back and sign. I stood up, swaying intentionally. I stumbled out of the dining room, down the hall, and into the powder room. I locked the door, pulled the pen out. The blue light was still blinking. I had it. But as I leaned against the sink, trying to slow my heart rate, I heard the front doorbell ring. Dr. Evans was early. And then, through the thin drywall, I heard Tyler answering the door. And his voice wasn't the concerned brother anymore. Yeah, come in, Doc. He's in the bathroom, breaking down. He'll sign. And hey, did the transfer go through to your account? Mom sent the retainer this morning. A pause. Then a deep, unfamiliar voice. It cleared. But Tyler, if he doesn't sign, we have to sedate him for the transport. I brought the ketamine just in case. We can't have him making a scene when the deputies arrive on Tuesday. I froze. They weren't just planning to take my money. They were planning to drug me. I looked at the bathroom window. It was small, frosted glass. I wasn't going back to that table. The bathroom window was a rectangular slit, barely 18 inches wide, designed for ventilation, not escape. But fear is a powerful lubricant. I kicked off my shoes to get traction on the toilet seat, hoisted myself up, and squeezed my shoulders through the frame. The frosted glass scraped against my ribs, tearing my flannel shirt. Behind me, the pounding on the bathroom door escalated from knocking to shoulder checking. Mason, open the door, Tyler shouted. Don't make us break it down. He's having an episode, I heard Dr. Evans say calmly, his voice muffled by the wood. Tyler, step back. I'll prep the syringe. Syringe. I shoved my hips through, scraping skin, and tumbled headfirst into the rhododendrons below. I landed hard on my shoulder, the mulch biting into my cheek. Pain shot down my arm, but I scrambled up instantly, adrenaline flooding my system like ice water. I didn't run to my car. They'd hear the engine. My car was parked in the driveway blocking theirs. If I started it, they'd be out the front door before I could shift into reverse. I ran into the woods bordering the property. I ran until my lungs burned and the suburban houses faded into the shadows of the tree line. I ran until I reached the main road, a mile away, where I called an Uber with trembling fingers, praying my battery wouldn't die. I didn't go to my apartment. I went straight to Thorne's office. It was 9:30 p.m. when I walked into his conference room, covered in dirt, bleeding from a scratch on my forehead. Sarah was pacing. Thorne was eating takeout Chinese food with a calm that was almost terrifying. I pulled the pen out of my pocket and slammed it on the table. They have ketamine, I wheezed, collapsing into a chair. They were going to sedate me. Dr. Evans is in on it. He took a retainer. Thorne wiped his mouth with a napkin and picked up the pen. He plugged it into his laptop. We listened. The audio was crisp. We heard the clatter of silverware. We heard Tyler's explosion about the gas. We heard Mom's manipulative plea about the management agreement. And then, the kicker. It cleared. But Tyler, if he doesn't sign, we have to sedate him. I brought the ketamine just in case. Thorne stopped the playback. He looked at Sarah, then at me. A slow, shark-like smile spread across his face. Gentlemen, he said softly. And Sarah. This isn't just a defense against a competency hearing anymore. This is conspiracy to commit kidnapping and medical malpractice. But we aren't going to call the police. Not yet. Why not? I demanded. They tried to drug me. Because if we arrest them tonight, the hearing on Tuesday gets canceled, Thorne said. They get lawyers. They claim it was a misunderstanding. They claim they were acting in your best interest during a medical crisis. He leaned forward. No. We let them walk into that courtroom on Tuesday. We let them swear under oath that you are incompetent. We let Dr. Evans testify to his professional opinion. We let them commit perjury on the record. And then, we dropped the hammer. The next 6 days were a blur of calculated silence. I stayed in a hotel under Sarah's name. I turned off my phone. To them, I had vanished into a fugue state. It fit their narrative perfectly. I knew they were frantic, not worried about my safety, but worried I wouldn't show up to be served. But they didn't need to serve me personally for an ex parte emergency order. They just needed to convince the judge I was missing and dangerous. Monday night, 12 hours before the hearing, I initiated the financial strike. For years, I'd been the good son. I paid the cell phone bill for the family plan, $4.20 a month. I was an authorized user on Tyler's credit card to help him build credit, which he maxed out daily. I paid the insurance on Mom's car. I sat in the hotel room with my laptop, a glass of whiskey, and a list of accounts. 10 more p.m. I removed myself as the guarantor for Tyler's Amex. The balance was $24,000. Immediate freeze. 10:15 p.m. I canceled the autopay for the family cell plan and reported the devices as stolen to the carrier, bricking them remotely. 10:30 p.m. I logged into the joint account Mom used for emergencies, which I funded, and transferred the entire balance, $2,500, back to my primary savings. I wanted them to wake up on court day with declined cards and dead phones. I wanted them stressed. Tuesday morning, 8:45 a.m. The county courthouse was a monolith of gray stone and misery. I watched from the back of the parking lot in a rental car as they arrived. Mom looked perfect. She wore a modest navy suit, clutching a handkerchief. She looked like the grieving mother of a lost soul. Tyler looked twitchy. He was wearing a suit that was too tight, constantly checking a phone that I knew wasn't working. He was arguing with a security guard at the entrance, probably about why his digital ID wasn't loading. Dr. Evans arrived separately, carrying a thick medical file. I waited 5 minutes. Then I walked in with Thorne and Sarah. We entered courtroom 4B just as the bailiff called the session to order. The room was empty except for the players. In the matter of the estate and person of Mason Miller, Judge Holloway announced. She was a stern woman with glasses perched on the end of her nose. This is an emergency petition for temporary guardianship. Petitioners are present? Yes, Your Honor, Mom's lawyer said. A slick guy in a cheap suit. We are here ex parte because the respondent, Mr. Miller, has absconded and is a danger to himself. I see, the judge said. And you have medical testimony? We do. Dr. Alan Evans is here to testify to Mr. Miller's rapid psychotic decline. Thorne stood up from the back row. Your Honor, his voice boomed, filling the room. The respondent is present and objects to the characterization that he has absconded. Mom spun around in her chair. Her face went white. Tyler looked like he was about to vomit. Dr. Evans froze halfway to the witness stand. Mr. Thorne, Judge Holloway said, raising an eyebrow. You are representing Mr. Miller? I am, Your Honor, and we are ready to proceed. The hearing was supposed to be a formality, a rubber stamp. Instead, it became a bloodbath. Mom took the stand first. She cried. Real tears. She talked about the gas stove, the missing keys. He's just not himself, she sobbed into the microphone. He stares at walls. He steals money from my purse. I just want to protect him and his assets before he loses everything. Thorne didn't cross-examine her. He let her lie. Then, Dr. Evans took the stand. In your professional opinion, Doctor, Mom's lawyer asked, does Mason Miller possess the capacity to manage his own financial affairs? Absolutely not, Evans said smoothly. He exhibits classic signs of paranoid schizophrenia with early-onset dementia markers. He is disjointed, aggressive, and has no grasp of financial reality. He requires immediate 24-hour supervision and control of his estate. Thank you, Doctor. Thorne stood up. He didn't bring a notepad. He brought a laptop. Dr. Evans, Thorne said, walking closer to the stand. You diagnosed Mr. Miller with paranoid schizophrenia. Did you run an MRI? Clinical observation is sufficient, Evans sniffed. I see. And did your clinical observation include the negotiation of a $15,000 retainer paid by Tyler Miller on Tuesday morning via wire transfer? Evans blinked. That was for future treatment costs. Interesting, Thorne said, because we have a recording from Tuesday evening, the night you claim my client was aggressive. Thorne placed the laptop on the evidence table and pressed play. The audio was amplified through the courtroom speakers. It cleared. But Tyler, if he doesn't sign, we have to sedate him. I brought the ketamine just in case. The silence in the courtroom was absolute. Judge Holloway's head snapped toward Dr. Evans. "Is that your voice, doctor?" Evans opened his mouth, but no sound came out. He looked at Mom's lawyer, who was suddenly very interested in his own shoes. Thorne let the recording play on. "We need to secure it. Mason, stop this. Otherwise, the court takes it all on Tuesday. We need that money. We need to protect that money before you burn it." Tyler's voice rang out, clear and desperate. Thorne paused the recording. "Your Honor," Thorne said, "we also have a forensic accounting report regarding Tyler Miller. He currently owes $487,500 to illegal sports betting entities. He has no income. His only path to solvency was gaining control of his brother's $3.8 million estate." The judge looked at Tyler. He was sweating profusely, pulling at his collar. "Mrs. Miller," the judge said, her voice dangerously low, "you swore under oath 5 minutes ago that your son was stealing from your purse. Yet here is a recording of you conspiring to force him to sign a power of attorney under threat of sedation." Mom stood up, her hands shaking. "Your Honor, you don't understand. We were scared. He is sick. The recording. He provoked us. He's manipulating you." "Sit down," Judge Holloway snapped. The gavel banged so hard it echoed like a gunshot. "Motion for guardianship is denied with prejudice," the judge barked. "Furthermore, I am referring this matter immediately to the District Attorney's Office for investigation into perjury, conspiracy to commit fraud, and attempted unlawful imprisonment." She turned her gaze to Dr. Evans. "Doctor, I am also forwarding this transcript and the audio evidence to the State Medical Board. I suggest you don't leave town." "Bailiff," she commanded, "escort the petitioners out. Mr. Miller, you and your counsel remain." I watched them leave. Mom looked back at me as the bailiff guided her by the elbow. She didn't look sad anymore. She looked hateful. Her lips moved, mouthing one word: ungrateful. Tyler didn't look back. He was checking his phone again, likely realizing that with the management fee plan dead, he had no way to pay Onyx Capital. When the heavy oak doors swung shut behind them, the adrenaline finally left my body. I slumped in my chair. "You okay?" Sarah whispered, putting a hand on my shoulder. "No," I said honestly. "I just sent my mother to prison." Thorne closed his laptop. "You saved your life, Mason. They had ketamine. They weren't going to just manage your money. Once you were in the system, heavily medicated, you might never have come out." We walked out of the courthouse into the blinding afternoon sun. My phone, which I had finally turned back on, buzzed. A notification from my bank. Alert. Unauthorized attempt to access account ending in 8904 via telephone banking. Failed security questions. They were still trying, even now. Even after the judge threatened them with the DA. I looked at Thorne. "What happens to them now?" "Criminal charges take time," Thorne said. "But financial ruin? That happens today." He handed me a file. "We successfully filed the restraining orders, and since you hold the deed to the house..." I froze. "Wait, I hold the deed?" "You paid off the mortgage 3 years ago," Thorne reminded me. "You put it in a trust, but you are the sole beneficiary. Technically, they are tenants at will." I had forgotten. In my burnout, in my desire to be the good son, I had paid off their house to help them retire. I technically owned it. "So I can kick them out?" I asked. "You can evict them," Thorne said. "Given the credible threat of violence and the attempted drugging, we can get an emergency eviction order. Today." I looked at the file. Evicting my mother. Evicting my brother. I thought about the keys in the freezer, the gas stove, the ketamine. "Do it," I said. "Serve them tonight." The locksmith's drill whined, a high-pitched scream that cut through the quiet suburban afternoon. I stood on the sidewalk, watching the front door of the house I grew up in, the house I technically owned, being rekeyed. Beside me stood 2 sheriff's deputies. Thorne had arranged the emergency eviction order within hours of the hearing, citing the ketamine incident as an immediate threat to my safety as the property owner. It was 4:15 p.m. Mom and Tyler arrived 10 minutes later. They pulled into the driveway, and I saw the exact moment they realized what was happening. The sheriff's cruiser was parked on the lawn. Boxes, hastily packed by a moving crew I'd hired, were stacked on the porch. Mom scrambled out of her car, her face blotchy from crying in the courthouse parking lot. "What is this?" she shrieked, rushing toward the porch. "You can't do this. This is my home." "Ma'am, step back," one of the deputies said, stepping between her and the door. "This property belongs to Mason Miller. You have been served with an immediate eviction order due to credible threats of violence." "Violence?" She spun around to face me. I was leaning against the rental car, arms crossed. "I am your mother. I wiped your nose. I raised you. And you throw me on the street?" "You tried to drug me with horse tranquilizers, Mom," I said calmly. "You tried to lock me away so you could steal $3 million. That cancels out the nose wiping." Tyler didn't scream. He stood by the car staring at the deputies. He looked like a trapped animal. He knew that without this address, without the management fee from my accounts, he was exposed. "Mason," Tyler called out, his voice cracking. "Bro, please. You know about Onyx. If I don't pay them, they're going to imprison me, literally. You can't leave me out here." I looked at my brother. I remembered him mocking my burnout. I remembered him volunteering to testify that I was aggressive. "You should have thought about that before you bet $500,000 you didn't have," I said. "I'm not your bank, Tyler, and I'm definitely not your keeper." The deputies gave them 20 minutes to gather essential personal items under supervision. I watched them walk out with trash bags of clothes. Mom clutching her jewelry box. Tyler clutching his gaming console, pathetic to the end. As they drove away, Mom flipped me off. Tyler just stared ahead, weeping. I didn't feel happy. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt light. Like a suit of lead armor had finally fallen off my shoulders. 3 weeks later. The fallout was systematic and brutal. Tyler didn't last a week. Without my funds to shield him, Onyx Capital sold his debt to a local enforcement crew. But the law got to him first. Dr. Evans, desperate to save his own medical license, flipped. He gave the district attorney everything. Texts from Tyler coordinating the sedation plan, wire transfers for the retainer, emails detailing the fabrication of my medical records. Tyler was arrested at a Motel 6 on charges of conspiracy to commit kidnapping and insurance fraud. The last I heard, he was being held without bail because he was a flight risk. The irony wasn't lost on me. He wanted me locked up for safety, and now he was the one in a cell. Mom fared slightly better, but only slightly. She wasn't arrested immediately, but the community shunned her. The rumors spread fast. Small towns love a scandal, especially one involving a respected matriarch trying to drug her successful son. She was asked to leave her bridge club. Her friends stopped returning calls. She moved into a one-bedroom apartment across town. I sold the family house 3 days after the eviction. I didn't even list it publicly. I sold it to a We Buy Ugly Houses firm for $650,000, about $100K under market value, just to be done with it quickly. The money from the sale? I put it into a trust for victims of financial abuse. I didn't want a dime of it. It felt cursed. 6 months later, I was sitting on the balcony of my new place, a penthouse in the city, overlooking the harbor. The wind was cold, crisp, cleaning out the last of the mental fog. I wasn't burned out anymore. Funny how quickly your energy returns when you aren't being actively poisoned by the people supposed to love you. I had started a new venture, small scale, consulting for startups on logistics. No 80-hour weeks, no sleeping under desks, just work I enjoyed, on my terms. My phone buzzed. An email. Sender, Linda Miller, Inmate Communication System. It wasn't from prison yet, she was awaiting trial, but she was using the monitored system because of the restraining order. I hesitated. My thumb hovered over the delete button. But curiosity is a flaw I'm still working on. I opened it. "Mason, I hope you're happy. You destroyed this family. Tyler's getting beaten up in there. I am alone. All because you couldn't share. You had millions. We just needed a little help. You were always selfish, even as a baby. I should have seen it then. If you have any soul left, send money for Tyler's commissary. He needs toothpaste." I read it twice. No apology, no regret. Just the same entitlement, stripped of its polite suburban mask. I didn't feel anger, I felt validation. Thorne was right. They were never going to stop. If I hadn't escaped that bathroom window, I'd be in a facility right now, drooling on myself while they spent my life's work on commissary and gambling debts. I hit delete. Then I blocked the sender. I opened my laptop. On the desktop, I still had the screenshot I took that day in the study. The blurry image of the draft email to the attorney. Subject: competency hearing. I looked at it one last time. They wanted to prove I wasn't competent. They wanted to prove I couldn't manage my own life. I dragged the file to the trash bin. I right-clicked. Empty trash. The file vanished with a satisfying crunch sound effect. I closed the laptop. I had never been more competent in my life.